Hello there ladies and gentlemen, my name's Luke Innes. I'm here to review another movie for you today, and I'm reviewing the 2005 horror thriller movie Feed, directed by Brett Leonard. The plot of Feed essentially concerns a guy who works for the cybercrime division of Interpol, who becomes suspicious about a website for the feeder fetish, i.e. people who are sort of attracted to the idea of having, essentially it's people who are attracted to morbidly obese women and the idea of, you know, holding dominance over them by feeding them and making them immobile and stuff. It's kind of a difficult one to explain, but if you Google it, I'm sure you'll understand what it is. Someone will have explained it better than me. And he becomes fixated on this one website. It all looks a bit seedy, and he begins to find evidence that people are watching and placing bets on when these women are going to die. He heads out to where it's happening in order to try and work out what's going on and try to put an end to it. And it all goes a little bit crazy from there on out. The first thing I've got to say about Feed is that it is disgusting, this movie, like really disgusting. I'm someone who, if I'm eating with someone and they've got a piece of food on their face, that I can't handle that until, I can't start eating again until they've got it off their face, they've wiped it off or whatever. So, I mean, in this movie where there's like these super morbidly obese women who are like covered in like, really disgusting like baked beans and horrible food, oh, it's horrible. And then to top it off, there's a ton of like blood and gore. There's a guy with a severed penis near the start. This movie is essentially Pink Flamingos but with fat birds. I say that's the big thing with Feeder, is it is kind of really disgusting. The plot is definitely interesting, but it's kind of got a lot of cliche in it. Obviously the kind of slightly tormented antagonist and equally tormented protagonist. They've got shit going on in their past, which I won't spoil, but it's all a little bit kind of been there, done that. As well as that, kind of the ending, which again I won't spoil, all feels very kind of, it feels done before. Pretty much everything in this movie, aside from the kind of very original aspect of the feeder thing, is all very feels like it's been done before. I've got to say, man, this movie's got its problems. I mean, the story, as I've already said, is pretty weak. There's a lot of stuff that really doesn't make sense, like, this cop manages to connect up the dots on things without anything to really draw the conclusions he's drawing, which is very frustrating to watch. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't really get a proper explanation. It takes a lot of cues in terms of its editing from Saw, like it's almost got like music video style editing, which, I mean, it was cool when they did it in the first Saw movie, but much like the later Saw sequels, it was just annoying here. You couple together things like the fact that the movie is very annoyingly edited, has quite a poorly written script, and is quite cliched, aside from obviously having quite an original concept at the core of it. And this feels a little bit like a recipe for disaster. I mean, to say that I didn't have, there weren't things that I enjoyed about the movie would be untrue. I mean, I did enjoy the practical effects. There were some really good gore effects in this movie, which ultimately is something that I like to see, especially when a sort of more modern movie, I know this film's over 10 years old, but a sort of 21st century movie with gore doesn't rely on CG. I'm just sick of CG gore. I appreciate the fact that this is mostly practical. There was one tiny bit that I think that might be CG, but it was like the tiniest little dribble of blood, so it wasn't even that noticeable. It's kind of immaterial, but I mean the special effects in this movie were really good, and the movie does have a genuinely really creepy atmosphere, man. I mean, the kind of relationship between this, the feeder and the I don't know, the eater, I guess the term is, or whatever, is really creepy in this movie, and that's a genuine thing. So that drawing on the reality really makes it really like, ooh, that's kind of creepy. Like I say, there's a sense of cliche that kind of ruins that. Aside from the practical effects, I don't think there's that much to kind of attract people to this movie, or that is particularly enjoyable about it. I mean, like I said sort of when I kicked things off, this movie is disgusting. Like it's, and I don't feel like there's a good enough payoff is the kind of the big thing for me. So I mean, overall I'd say that Feeders is about a 4 out of 10. The really good practical effects are not enough really for me to save this film from feeling really pointless and kind of poorly written and annoyingly edited. So I mean, this is not a very good movie. I wouldn't recommend this one. I was definitely interested when I heard about the premise, but it didn't really deliver enough for me, despite showing some promise occasionally. So yeah, this was a slightly disappointing one. I wouldn't recommend checking out Feed. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Luke Innes. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Make sure to check out my podcast. The link's in the description. It's called Ironcast. It's all about music in its various forms. Check that out. It's where my main creative focus goes, rather than this channel. That's the podcast goes out. We put out one episode a week, guaranteed. So you'll always have Ironcast, even if this channel is dead and gone. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out Ironcast. I wouldn't worry too much about checking out Feed though. Ladies and gents.